All right, Pop's headline in automotive news says we're at a turning point. It seems that the wholesale used car and retail used car and also new car markets, they are all shifting. We've seen prices go up, 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 and now it seems like things might be headed in the other direction. What say you?
No.
We
No.
do not see eye to eye on this one, to be very clear. My dad thinks prices will keep going up, but all the data is starting to point to prices starting to come down, Pops.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All the data, no matter, what's that line? Figures lie and liars figure. You can make statistics be whatever you want them to be. I'm of the opinion that even though they think that maybe we're on the precipice of things changing, even though we saw wholesale prices rise in March again, the latter half of March, it rose more slowly than in the first half of March, and that we might see downward. We've been saying the same damn thing for 3 years, okay? And I haven't seen anything change other than from the latter part of June last year through the end of last year, we did see significant wholesale price declines. And then, I don't know, January and February and March, they spiked back up again.
All right, so we're talking about used cars. First part of this video is used cars. Let's just be very clear about that, and we'll talk about new cars. You've said so many things, though, that are counterintuitive to your own logic. The Cox Automotive data, Dad, It says here, looking at price trends by week, the strongest increase happened at the start of March, and last week saw the first price decline of the year. I'm going to say it. That's a trend that I think you will start to see here as we get the April data. So wholesale prices have been resilient while retail prices actually have stayed pretty flat. And so for used car prices, they haven't really changed. However, if you had a car to sell, your trade-in was worth more over the past couple of months because wholesale prices were going up. And we understand why, because there's been a lack of quality used cars. But Dad, last week was the first decline, and I bet you the data we get from Cox Automotive and Black Book this month shows continued declines, and sales were down year over year.
Okay,
sales were actually down 6% year over year.
Okay, so the first decline of the year, that was based on Manheim. Okay, and Manheim auctions account for about 55% of all auction sales. I would be more interested to see what Black Book says, based on the fact that Black Book tracks, 95% of all wholesale sales. So if you're only basing your information on approximately half of all the wholesale sales out there, it's not as thorough or in-depth information as what you get from Black Book. And we have seen Black Book report higher increases than Manheim has. So yes, I get that at Manheim last week they saw a decline. Were the declines similar or even existing at Edessa and other major auction sites? So it's hard to say. I know in the past I would look at that and I would go, oh yeah, prices have to come down. Wholesale values have to come down. And every time I've said that, I've been wrong. So I'm taking the opposite view and saying, no, based on what we have seen over the last 3 years, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that we're on the precipice or the turning point. I just don't feel it. I don't see it.
Pops, we are super excited. CarEdge Insurance. What is it? What do we need to know?
It's all your insurance needs in one place. Easy, simple, fast. Just give us some information. You get your quotes.
CarEdge.com/insurance. The same guy who says figures lie and liars figure, whatever the hell you're saying is now using the data for his advantage. Dad, let's go here. Jonathan Smoke, who is the chief economist over at Cox Automotive, quote, based on a full month of data and other key metrics, we definitely think conditions are weakening. March came in like a lion and went out like a lamb regarding wholesale vehicle values. Quote, and this is from Smoke continues, our forecast assumes some negative months this spring and summer, so it will be a bumpy ride. The strong start of the year is a clear testament to what a very supply-constrained market is capable of seeing, with just a modest improvement in demand. What I'm banking on, Dad, is there will be a continued decline in consumer demand. We know around tax season there's typically an increase in demand. And quite frankly, we saw only increases in prices on the wholesale market, not the retail market. That's primarily because dealers know that there's typically a improvement of demand around this time, but it didn't materialize as much this year as it has in others. Go watch other YouTubers who talk about this and
I
have
get it.
dealerships. This is the reality is tax time was not as strong as it has in the past, and post tax time there's typically a decline, a serious decline in wholesale and retail values.
Okay, I'm gonna highlight 3 words. Our forecast assumes. Okay, they're assuming that there's going to be some negative months. Great. I could assume that someday I'll be 6 foot. It ain't happening. I've gone from 5'6.5" to 5'6". Okay, with age, you can assume a lot of things, and the reason they might be assuming it is historically we would normally see, especially by typically June-ish, the end of June, July, where you start to see significant wholesale value declines. But even though historic data is important, it is, as somebody once said, just because something has happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen the same way in the future. The stock market might have, just because it went up one year doesn't mean it's going to go up the next.
We disagree so much.
Well, we do. And the only reason we disagree is I have relied on that historical data for the past 3 years. And what was it, 6 weeks ago, that I came to the conclusion that no, these are not normal times. We have not been in normal times. And there's really, it's counterintuitive to what we have seen in the past. So that, yeah, I haven't jumped on that. I hope I'm wrong. I keep saying it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope these guys are right. And only time will tell. And maybe we should have a steak dinner bet with Jonathan Smoke as well.
Here's the deal. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about the new car market, Dad.
Yes.
In March, we actually saw average transaction prices fall below MSRP for the first time in 2 years. Just let that sink in for a moment. Oh, that is just insane.
Yes.
The average price declined 1.1%, but was actually up 3.8% from a year ago. That's because manufacturers have increased the MSRP so much. But we are starting to see the strength of new car pricing come down a little bit. The average MSRP even came down a fifth, 0.6% from February to March. So that was whoop-de-doo. That's great. It's up 6.4% year over year. This is what's interesting, though, Dad. Average incentive spend was up 2.7% month over month to $1,516. Incentives are up to 3% of the average transaction price, which is the highest level since February of 2022. Pricing power has declined. Okay, that is a key line here. Pricing power has declined. It remains strong relative to pre-pandemic comparisons. However, it is declining. And so on the new car market, I think the longer you can be patient, unless you are looking for certain vehicles like hybrid RAV4s, hybrid CRVs, and everything is dictated by your local market conditions. This is why we built CarEdge.com, so you can research your local market and be more in tune with what conditions are there. We are seeing, though, on the new car side, Dad, I don't want to overstate it, but like some weakening. We are starting to see some weakening in the new car market.
Absolutely. We have seen minor weakening. And honestly, Zach, the only things that I think that can really have a positive impact for consumers and a negative impact for the industry is if banks continue to tighten lending, both to consumers and on the floor plan side of things for dealers, so that if dealers can't arrange credit lines so that they can continue to buy cars and stock cars for their lots, whether it be new or used, then we could see some real changes in pricing. And I think that probably has a greater likelihood of happening than some of the other things that we have talked about historically. I think with certain banks faltering, many banks considering pulling out of aggressively lending that I think that will have a greater impact and could be much more of a positive thing price-wise for consumers. The problem, however, will be it might become more difficult for them to actually finance that purchase.
Stay tuned. We'll likely have a video on this in the next few days, kind of going in depth on the auto finance market, what's happening both on the dealer side and also availability of credit for consumers. But in the meantime, folks, let us know down below in the comments. Are you Team Pops or are you Team Zach? Do you think the market is going to turn over, let's say, over the next few months as we head into the summer, or do you think prices are going to continue to rise? I'm very curious, Dad, to read the comments on this video.
I think the team should be: are you Team Reality or Team Fantasy?